City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of August 23rd. Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Will you please bow your heads? Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us here today. We ask that you watch over the great city of Newman. We ask that you give the guidance and wisdom to this council to make the right decisions for this city. And this we pray, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Hutchins.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina.
Present.
Mayor King.
Present. Thank you. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll go to item 6, ceremonial matters. Presentation by San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. It's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I want to thank Newman City Council for giving us this time to make a brief presentation. And today I will be going through that, giving a state of the district, that progress report on air quality in the valley. And before I talk about the great progress we have made in the last decade, that first probably it will be good to go through the constraints that we face in the San Joaquin Valley in our mission towards cleaning the air. And the first one is basically nature-made, as everybody is familiar with that San Joaquin Valley is just like a huge bowl, that we have our ranges all from our west side to Tehachapi's, and we are just in summertime as well as winter time that our air gets stagnated and there's no way to go out. And that plays a huge impact on our mission to improve the air quality. Like as comparison, our neighbors to the Bay Area, they have advantages that they get the breezes from the ocean breezes, and basically the air quality is much better than ours. So that's a huge challenge. Then second challenge, which everybody has actually faced a lot in the last 3-4 years, is the chronic poverty and unemployment rate that we face in the San Joaquin Valley, which is a big challenge. And as everybody has seen, that high population rate there has been a lot of growth because of affordable housing that we have seen in last decade. And this is the last one, is that everybody pretty familiar, and actually today I was coming from Modesto. It took me 2 hours because 99 was all closed for accident. So we have these major highways which go through the San Joaquin Valley, and bringing all the truck traffic from the south coast, from the Bay Area back and forth. So it's a huge the challenge. Despite these huge challenges, we have done a great progress in the last decade. And the station sources, which are our businesses that the district primarily regulates, and the industry, that we have seen 80% reduction. And it's a big achievement, and kudos goes to the private enterprise that they have contributed a lot in last 1 decade. And also, as a significant improvement in air quality, that we have 83% reduction in our unhealthy days, and we keep on making a huge progress. And the last winter was the cleanest winter, and here kudos goes to the general public that they have contributed a lot in a voluntary program like fireplace reduction and those kind of things. So, which is a great achievement. And we had the cleanest summer on record, over 50% reduction in our ozone exceedances too. I want to show a little bit, like I said that there is a huge constraint, that there is a continuous increase in population. And despite that, you can see from this chart that our population has been growing, but our air pollution in the valley has been improving, which is a great success. And this next slide is another example, like in summer months, when the weather is really hot, that we gauge our air pollution improvements or status, we call it on the ozone exceedances. And as you can see that all this last decade, we have been making a tremendous improvement. And on the right side is the winter that the green line is the good days are going up every year. So that's a huge kudos to businesses and the general public. Now I want to go through some major core values that the district operates under, and I'm honored to share those. First one is protection of public health. That's our primary mission, is to protect everybody's health. And when we do that, we have to make sure that we don't hinder or obstruct the economic prosperity of the valley, because the industry has to grow. At the same time, we have to achieve our certain goals. And when we do that we provide that outstanding customer service, whether to the city, to the county, to the businesses, to the farmers, to the general public, that we provide the utmost customer service. An open and transparent public process, that any time we come up with any new requirements or regulation, that we get the input from the industry and the general public and the stakeholders. And when we come up those, we don't just take those from, say, Bay Area or South Coast and just slap on our valley, because as I mentioned before, our the economics are different than those are in, say, Bay Area or South Coast. So when we come up with those regulations, there has to be a science behind them. So we take it very seriously when we come up with those regulations. And then is effective use of public funds. That the permit fees are the lowest in California, and same thing, our overhead is the lowest in California too. And we are very, very conservative when it comes to the public funds. And the last is the respect for the opinions and the public input. That residents, we serve for them, and anytime they have any input, that we take this pretty seriously. Now I want to show a little bit what is our inventory of emission in the San Joaquin Valley, because this is critical to know. That the top is that stationary and area sources. This is basically the district has a regulation or jurisdiction over these sources. These are the businesses, the gas station, all the industry that we regulate. And as you can see from the diagram, it's only 20% of our total inventory of emission in San Joaquin Valley. So the rest of is, the major part is, you can see the heavy duty trucks, passenger vehicles, and other the parts of it. And the challenges we are facing is that the new requirements that the federal government is coming out, they're getting very close to our background emissions. As you can see, those are the standards. The new standards are getting very close to that. Will need a huge 80-90% more reduction than what we have achieved in last decade. And right now, there is no technology which exists. And this is a great, that district is putting a lot of effort into getting a dialogue started that to get EPA to analyze San Joaquin's air based on its constraints. Like I mentioned before, there is the geographical situation is such, and then asking the EPA to look at transport emissions, not only just from locally, but also from overseas. And one of this effort there is going on is in Congress is Kevin McCarthy, that congressman from Kern County, that he's asking for that, it's called common sense bill, that there has to be, science needs to be looked at more before the San Joaquin Valley is required to meet these requirements. And what if we don't meet the requirements? I mean, what mandate us to achieve these reductions? And that comes from the Clean Air Act, which is the federal mandates. And if we don't meet these requirements, then the federal sanctions could be imposed on us, and it could affect the new businesses, expansion of existing businesses. It can affect the loss of highway funding. And the last but not the least, that federal government can take over our program if we cannot show the reductions. And the main thing is that district's goal is to provide the local control. So that hammer of federal EPA taking over is a huge hammer on the district. Now, like I mentioned before, I want to touch base is that the new federal standards are getting very close to our background. And that will require 80 to 90% more reduction in emissions. And right now, the technology does not exist. So that's what the Kevin McCarthy bill and our effort on the political level to tell EPA is it is pretty close to impossible to meet those new requirements in San Joaquin Valley. And other, like I mentioned before, that one aspect to look is, which hasn't been looked in the past, is overseas emissions, because we don't know, there has been last decade huge industrial development in China and India, and we don't have a science right now which has analyzed those impacts. And recently there has been studies going on. There's a monitoring station installed in Big Sur area to see those, and that is other aspect that we have been asking that those should be looked into it too. And the last I want to touch is healthier living initiative. Like businesses, as I mentioned, they had done incredible job in last 10 years, and huge reduction in emissions. And now we have healthier living initiative where we are asking public also to participate. And today I was proud to be, when I was here at the door, and Mayor came on the bike and he made my day. I mean, these are the small things we are asking the public. Like I mentioned, the last winter was the cleanest winter. And one reason was that voluntary reduction, that fireplace curtailment, that people just step up to the plate when the days are bad. And usually for us, the days are bad when the school starts. Like this week, we have air alert days because when the school starts, our problem starts. So we are asking the general public to provide those contribution and become healthy living partners. And a lot of cities have become partners that we provide them information on different programs, and we encourage City of Newman also to become partners with us and sign up online so we can provide all the tools which are available. And a lot of cities I've seen is that I saw Newman cities natural gas cars outside. So those are the small effort or big efforts that contributes a lot into our improvements. And now last is that there is a huge incentive and funding that is available from the district, and there's more than $200 million that we give towards different programs. I mean, expanding from lawnmower exchange to school bus replacement and dirty engine replacement. So we encourage counties and cities to take advantage of those fundings. And that's end of my presentation, and if there's any question, more than happy to answer.
Any questions?
I had one quick question.
Yes, sir.
You're talking sources of pollution.
Yeah.
Do they measure, I know you said how neat it is up in the Bay Area, that all their stuff flows to the valley?
That's right. There is, on the bad days, you can say it can range from 20 to 30% in our northern part of the
So
our area.
they know how to calculate basically what.
Yeah, there is actually monitoring station. That's a good comment that we have a monitoring station in Tracy,
Okay.
one in Manteca, Stockton. So those are, we measured that pretty good.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Any other questions? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Warren. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
What the hell was that?
That was 10 minutes time.
Johnny's getting started.
Oh, that was the timer.
Your time was up.
I apologize. Okay, we'll go to item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council, now's the time to do it.
Mine's not as fancy as all of that, but Basically, what I would like to do is we would like to do a Love Newman Day. Have most of you seen like the Love Modesto Day that they did? It's a day of volunteering and community projects. I know it's not on the agenda. We're hoping that it could get on the next one, but I am going to be having something at the Fall Festival, so I thought you guys might want to know about it before the Fall Festival is coming, so when people ask you would know. It's April 28th is the day that it's set. We have a group that's helping us out of Modesto, which is great because they're taking all the liability and all the web and all of that technology for us. All we have to do is provide the projects. We gather the volunteers on that day for 3 hours, and we do projects all around town. These projects can be anything from citywide projects to visiting the seniors, anything. The fire department might have something, the police department might have something they would like done. It's just a way to get the community involved on one day that maybe their involvement will build into something that will expand to doing it more throughout the year. So it's really simple, and it's a big thing. I'd like just the support of the city while we're doing it. We're not asking anything from the city, except that if you have projects, we just need project leaders with the supplies to do them. And I'll work with you if you have any questions on any of that. I'll work with you because I know it's not on the agenda, so you can't make any kind of formal thing on it. But we just wanted you to be aware of it because, again, I'm going to be having a booth at the Fall Festival with this going on.
Kat, can you give us your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of you know me, so I just assumed. My name is Kat Lightsey, 1226 L Street here in Newman. And I'll give you these for the city councilman. If you guys have any questions, call me. If you'd like to meet, I'll meet with you to do some stuff. Or if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Basically, it's a group of volunteers that volunteer to do different kinds of projects throughout the community.
On that one day.
On that one day.
On the one day. And the reason they do that is because the success rate of having people come back to volunteer again has been really huge. In Modesto, they started 3 years ago with just like about 1,200 people showed up the first time. Year 3, they had 4,000 people. And they average about 10% of those people continually to volunteer throughout the year that have never volunteered before. So if you have 4,000 people, that's 400 people now that are volunteering to help in the community that hadn't done it before. Now we're much smaller, but there's still a chance that we could bring in more people who'd like to do things in our community to make it a better place.
Great. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, you said, was there a date that you had?
April
28th.
28th is the day that they have set.
That's what I wrote down, but we're talking next year.
Yes, next year. That way we have all this time to get the projects going. Yeah, no, it wasn't this last one. No, I'm not that bad.
Well, we missed it if you did. It's a Saturday.
Yes, it is a Saturday. And what we'll be doing is actually we'll be visiting the schools, we'll be visiting the city, we'll be visiting the fire department, Ferris with the theater, coming up with these projects, and then it will be on a site where people can go on and they could just volunteer for that. And then the project leaders themselves can get a hold of them to create a connection. And then we'll have one day on the 28th, we'll have a rally, a kickoff rally for that day. People go off to their projects, have a great time, and hopefully come back again and volunteer some more.
Very good idea.
Great idea.
Great idea.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Comments?
Fantastic.
Thanks, Kat.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for taking the lead. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll go to item 8, the consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions set by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of the August 9, 2011 regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 2 warrants, please.
All righty.
39527, I guess that's the supplementary report, and 100213, both of those 2 in-sync systems.
Okay. With the pulling of the 2 mentioned warrants, have action by council, please.
I make a motion we approve the consent calendar other than those 2 warrants.
I second that. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Acting on item number 39527 and item number 100213. Action.
I make a motion that we approve those 2 items.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, public hearing. A is adopt resolution number 2011, next to number resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is a report on a nuisance abatement. Abatement notices were sent to several properties with accordance of ordinance 95-4, chapter 2, title 8-2-3. These notices inform property owners of their right and all the procedures and their right to object at a public hearing. It is anticipated that property owners will comply with abatement notices prior to the hearing date. A final survey was done yesterday, and we have one address that still needs to be abated, which is 656 Mount Rushmore. Fiscal impact is none, and this is brought for further consideration or action by the council. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to the chief? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wish to address the council? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, chief. Item 10, regular business. A, consider approval of the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, CAPER, relating to its fiscal year 2010-2011 past activity and open public comment period. Stephanie.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you is the draft fiscal year 10-11 CDBG CAPER that details last year's CDBG projects and programs. It also assesses the CDBG Consortia's 5-year consolidated plan, objectives, and contains HUD reporting requirements. The City of Newman was allocated $226,226 last fiscal year, which was applied towards community computer courses and Phase 2 of the PQRST project. The CAPER is required by HUD and must be adopted on an annual basis in order to remain good standing for CDBG funding. Staff recommends that the council consider adoption of the CAPER, release the draft report for the required public comment period, and set the public hearing for September 13th to consider formal approval of the CAPER document. I'm happy to answer any questions. And that is an excerpted copy in front of you. I figured you didn't want the whole thing.
Questions of Stephanie?
It has just the Newman references.
Seeing none, council direction.
Make a motion, we consider approval of the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, et cetera, et cetera.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. B, adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, a resolution approving and adopting an enforceable obligation payment schedule in compliance with AB 1X26.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. On June 29th, the governor signed AB 1X26 and 27 with the intent of eliminating redevelopment agencies unless they made the specified community remittances. On July 18th, yes, on July 18th, the League of California Cities and the California Redevelopment Agency filed suit in the Supreme Court of California. Nearly 2 weeks ago, on August 11th, the Supreme Court agreed to take the case and issued a stay of enforcement on AB 1X26 in part and a stay on AB 1X27 in its entirety. At this point, our redevelopment agency is prohibited from incurring new indebtedness, transferring assets, acquiring real property, entering into new contracts or modifying existing contracts, and/or adopting or amending redevelopment plans. Acting on the advice of legal counsel, the redevelopment agency of the City of Newman should adopt an enforceable obligation payment schedule. This schedule does not obligate the city to make the payments under AB 1X27. The schedule is simply a list of existing debt, costs to maintain current operations, and any obligations that are legally binding but have not yet begun the financial aspect of their agreements. While the stay is in effect, the redevelopment agency cannot make any payments unless it is listed on our enforceable obligation payment schedule. A decision on the lawsuit is projected to be given in mid-January. With the stay in place, we will be receiving our first tax increment disbursement of 55% of the annual revenues in December on schedule prior to the decision of the Supreme Court. This amount is estimated to be around $300,000 this year. Before you is a resolution to adopt the enforceable obligation payment schedule. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions of Lou?
I just had one question on the schedule itself.
Sure.
Number 4, the borrowed funds from cash pool. I'm assuming that happened sometime long before I got here, so
Yes.
what was that?
In essence, what that is because all of our funds are in a pooled cash group, when any of the funds has a negative cash balance, it just means that they have borrowed more from the pool than they have put into it. Typically, with fluctuations, there may be times during the year when a particular fund will run negative, but when revenues come back in, it brings it back to its balance. At this particular point, our RDA is upside down because we had SERIF activities for the last 2 years, plus we've done some other projects that have brought us to that point. One of the items, again, to note is that should we adopt this schedule, we still will be receiving our money in December, which is close to $300,000, which will bring a big chunk of that back out. And then depending on how a Supreme Court decides in January, if they decide that it is unlawful, we get to continue and the rest of the money will come in and will clear us out. Otherwise, this list, should we decide to continue, would work as a basis for us to continue our redevelopment. If we decide to hand it off to a successor agency, this would become the basis for them to continue their activities.
But there's no requirement for us to start paying on this right away or anything like
No,
that?
this is basically just a list of current obligations that the RDA has.
And I think, Council, just for your information, when we get into comments by the city manager, myself, and Councilman Hutchins attended a meeting today. I think Michael will give us a little briefing on that a little bit later on the status of that pending lawsuit. So with that, I ask for council direction.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution approving and adopting an enforceable obligation payment schedule in compliance with AB 1X26.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you,
thank
Lou.
you.
All right, moving right along. We'll go to item 11, items from District 5 Supervisor Jim D. Martini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. It's always a pleasure to come to Newman. You just moved that agenda along so well. So we just had our health summit last week right here at the West Side Theater, and I think it went very well. I'd like to thank the city for their hospitality and moving the tables in for our vendors and scrounging up a projector and the cord that connects to the laptop, which Dr. Walker had forgot. So you can't have an event of this size without something going wrong, and so we were able to live with that. It was just a relief to see that the city was able to get the cord and the projector for us. So I think our event went really well. We had 9 teams this year, and we had 14 vendors. So it was covered by a variety of media sources, and we had a great program. We had lunch, and our speakers were Dr. Walker and Dr. Alyssa Epstein, who I think did a really good job in their talk about healthy choices and lifestyle. So it went really well. Our next meeting for the task force will be in Gustine on September 29th. And as we rotate from the cities, and that time we'll be looking at projects that we would like to do next year. Probably for sure continuing our hikes and bikes for your life and West Side walks, and maybe we'd be looking at a new program called Rethink Your Drink, which is calculating sugar content of drinks, and possibly some cooking classes or whatever makes sense for us. So, we have to keep coming up with new things, and because we'll be probably deciding on the theme for our calendar this next year and getting that all into play. So everything went really well, and thank the city for it, and I think it was just a really successful event. The way out will be October 15th in the city of Gustine this year. So the Newman team, I'm on the Patterson team, so I don't know. Patterson's always finished last every time, so maybe it's their time this year. But we're real well, and I really thank the city for everything they did to make that a successful event, and look forward to the Fall Festival coming up another week or so. And we have our monthly meeting with the mayors and myself Thursday morning, right here in Gustine. I checked with Mayor Molina.
Newman.
He's
Here in
okay with
Newman.
him.
Here in Newman.
Yeah, right here in Newman
Yeah.
at the grill.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions, Jim?
Okay,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Item from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, that healthcare weigh-in Biggest Loser event, really the thank you goes to Mike Meyer and Lou Humphreys, Stephanie Ocasio, Garner Reynolds and his staff. They did all the work. And so they should be commended. They're the ones that really stepped up to and made sure that that event went without a hitch, and it did. So it's always good to see, you know, staff really does step up at these times and makes it run pretty flawless. And you know, there were some hiccups, but most people didn't even notice. So again, the kudos goes to them. On September 13th, which is our next council meeting, what I would like to do is, with the indulgence of the council, I'd like to schedule a meeting at 6 p.m. At the IOF building. And the reason I would like to do that is I would like to have the council there with staff. We want to walk the building with you. We hadn't had an opportunity to walk it together. We as staff would like to share the vision that we have for the building. We want to talk to you about the pros and cons, some of the issues that we're dealing with over there with respect to security and cameras and all of those things. So with concurrence of the council, again, we would like to schedule a meeting from 6 to 7 at the Oddfellows building. Subsequent to that meeting, we will return to this venue and have our regularly scheduled meeting starting at 7 p.m. Does that work for everybody, that date and time? Okay. So we'll make sure that gets in your agenda package. So there'll actually be 2 meetings. There'll be separate meetings that will occur. Thank you. I did get an opportunity to meet with the new superintendent of schools today. So for Mayor Pro Tem Martina and Councilmember Hutchins, we will be resuming our District 2-on-2 meetings beginning in September. Right now, it's either going to be the first Monday or the third Monday or the third Tuesday, either the 19th or the 20th right now. And he's supposed to get back to me on a date on that. So, you know, he and I had a very good conversation today. One of the things that they did in Turlock was they met. It was a city rep, a school district rep, members of the Chamber of Commerce, the business community would get together and they would bring in their elected officials and or their staff. People like Supervisor DeMartini there, Senator Cannella there. You know, who knows? Maybe we might get our assemblywoman down here or one of her staffers.
I'll take that.
And then they get feedback. Then they get feedback about how they're providing the service to us and what are our issues as a local community, not only from the district and the city's perspective, but also the business district's perspective. So I thought that was a great idea. So we're going to actually try to get something like that done in Newman and try to meet that on a quarterly basis. So we'll keep you in tune on where that's going. So I look forward to having a good working relationship with the superintendent. I think he's going to pick up where Dr. Foss left off, and that was a good relationship between the city and the district. Just want to remind everybody that the Fall Festival is coming up August 31st through September 4th. On Monday, September 5th, it is Labor Day holiday, and we will be observing that, so City Hall will be closed. On Saturday, September 10th, as tradition, the Saturday following Labor Day is the first day of soccer. Anybody's interested, move on down to Sherman Park in the morning. I think we're close to 400 kids this year, which is a good turnout for our community. We had a lull last year, but I think it's back up. And then last week, you may have seen it in the newspaper. We were doing a recruitment for an account clerk. Unfortunately, we're going to be losing one of our account clerks. Her daughter is going to San Jose State University, and her husband works in San Jose, so they're going to relocate the family back to San Jose. It just makes it easier on the whole family that way. So we're doing our recruitment now so we can do a little bit of training with her before she goes, and at this point in time, it's looking like early October is about her exit period. I don't know that we have an exact date yet, but that's kind of what we're working out. We were also recruiting for a part-time maintenance worker that you had approved in your budget, and we have not yet conducted interviews on that. But for the account clerk, 127 applications for that position. So that's quite a number. I think that's, at least for the time we've been here, and this staff has been here, that's the highest we've seen for a single opening, 127. So we were able to interview 20. So we did better than 10%, about 15%, top 15% got interviews, and we'll bring back probably the top 4 and move forward from there. So, Mayor, that's all that I have right now. Unless there's any we want to talk about today. Today, every month, the Stanislaus County city managers get together, and we just talk about issues that we're facing as city managers. It's just kind of a time for fellowship and kind of a complaining session. And we have a lot of new city managers in the county. There's a lot of frustration, I think, through some of the city managers about what's going on with the state and how they're treating local cities, and and what's the role of the League of California Cities, and where are we going from here. And so some of us we're questioning the tactic we need to now resort to. At some point in time, somebody's got to punch the bully in the schoolyard in the nose, and the state is the bully. So as cities and city managers, we're trying to figure out how we as cities, because if you think about it, 85% of the state's population probably live in cities. And so, we really are, the residents of our community and all the different cities are the state. But yet the state feel that they can treat us like a stepchild, and just, now they're stealing the crumbs that they're dropping from us, and it's quite criminal. The fact is, the state legislature knowingly violated the California Constitution with the things that they're doing right now with the state budget, and it's just sad to see that that's going on. So through our frustration in voicing it to our League of California Cities rep, Mr. Qualls, he invited the chief executive officer, I think is what his name is, or he's not the president, because president is Jim Reitenauer, but the executive officer of the league. He came down and spoke with us today in our division, and we had representatives all from San Joaquin County, Stanislaus County, Merced County was there. I don't think anyone from Madera or Fresno were there, but it was a good turnout today. And he was kind of going over the state of the lawsuit, the general feel of what's going on at the state capitol right now, and his view of how the legislature behaves up there. So in his perspective, which is, the legislature is basically being punitive towards the cities because we got Proposition 22 passed, and it really tied their hands on what they could do with their budget. So they went in and did the redevelopment, elimination, but if you give us ransom money, you can still play type thing. So, the lawsuit's out there. He's pretty confident, much more confident than some of the other people I've spoke to that kind of have ties to the league. He's pretty confident based upon the actions of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court doesn't really take very many cases, 1 or 2 per decade, straight up to the Supreme Court. They usually let them go through the lower courts before they agreed to take this one right away. They agreed to place a stay on 26, partial stay on 26, and the full one on 27, pending their outcome, which is beneficial to us. So, and they agree that they're going to expedite this process and have it all wrapped up by January of 2012, which is great news, because the word that Mr. McKenzie was hearing in the halls of the state capitol were, well, they pretty much knew it was illegal, but they thought they could just do this and it would get tied up in courts for 2 or 3 years, and they got a short-term loan. And then by 2 or 3 years from now, they were hoping the economy would be back and they would just give us our money back, fully intending that they probably knew that they weren't going to win the case. So by this expediting the manner of which the decision will be forthcoming, we believe we'll get our money. We believe he's reasonably confident, I think is cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic is what he said, that we would prevail in that case. It really is a no-win situation, though, for the residents of the state, because we get, as local citizens, these are Newman tax dollars generated by the residents of this community through their property taxes. Those dollars should remain in our community to pave our streets, to fix our downtowns, to do curb and gutter installations and all the rest. They're trying to take those away from us. If we win, we get that money back, and that's great for our local residents. The sad part is there's such a structural deficit going on at the state level. There's no way to fix what is occurring up there. It's a sad state. I really believe it is. So there's going to be some really hard times for, unfortunately, a lot of the residents of the state, and probably the most vulnerable residents of the state are probably going to suffer the most. Not necessarily because of this verdict, but because of everything that the state does at that level. They projected, they use these very optimistic revenue projections for their budget. Well, they're going to come in $5 billion short. So how are they going to come up with $5 billion? And then this is only another billion on top of that, and there's some automatic cuts and triggers that come in, and so unfortunately it's going to get worse before it gets better. The good news is he's cautiously optimistic that we'll prevail in the case, which is good for our local residents and redevelopment, but on the grand scheme of things, you're going to see some worse times, I think, for the state of California, and ultimately that means our residents and us as well. They're going to come after us again, I think, with a way to try to get local tax dollars. Out of all the revenues that are generated in this state, all the taxes that all of you pay, less than 1% stays in your community. Less than 1%. So everybody always loves to, and I'm just as guilty. No one likes to pay taxes, and we all feel like we're heavily taxed. I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily mind if your tax dollars stayed in your community, but when 99% of your tax dollars leave your community, 99%, it's hard. It's hard, so. So anyways, that's kind of the gist of where it was at. The other issue and the question, and you used this as a focus group, was the state legislature does not play by the same rules that this council is required to play by. They don't have the Brown Act. They don't have transparency. They hide their budgets. They took a punitive action against a assembly member of the Democratic Party because he didn't vote for the Democratic budget. They took his budget away because he wouldn't vote along the party line. He was trying to do what he felt was best for his constituents. And he's been penalized by it. And then, so he tried to get a published report on the Senate budget or the Assembly budget, legislative budget. It's about $140 million. They won't give it to him. So, he went to the media in the Sacramento Bee, and I think there's another newspaper who filed a public records request, and the speaker refuses to give up that information. And so now it's in a lawsuit, and so they're wasting your tax dollars on lawsuits and other things. It's criminal. It's really what's going up there. So I think the next fight that the League of California Cities may find themselves in is going to the electorate and to the people and trying to get them to place the transparency issues, and that we have to go through the Brown Act and all those other things. Just as an example, I'm sorry, Mayor, I know I'm rambling a lot, but
okay.
I get passionate about this sometimes. Councilmember Hutchins and I went up to Sacramento during some of these hearings. And at the very end, they had public comment period. Well, 80% of the legislature that was up there in this committee had already left. And then the chair basically said, well, we don't really want to hear what you said, what you have to say. Get up there, state your name, and whether you like it or not, whether you oppose it or support it. And if you went over 10 seconds, they turned off your microphone. Now, can you imagine if the mayor got up here and we had somebody wanting to speak and address this council, and the mayor said, you got 10 seconds, turning off their microphone? I mean, Dean and Julie would be all over us. You know, Modesto B would be all over us. Not one newspaper, not one media outlet had anything to say about it. And it was a crime shame. But there were a long line of people out waiting to be heard, and they did not get the opportunity that they're afforded as tax-paying residents of this thing. So, I mean, I know I apologize. I am rambling a little bit tonight, but you ought to see Roy Watson go, because he's
I think part of the
Sound like a politician.
yeah, part of the feeling is, and the consensus I felt in the room today was, you know, we passed Prop 22, and the state reacted the way they did. No matter, it's like, you know, not knowing where we're going to go next, because where the other shoe's going to fall before the league has to take some other legal action to try to stop the state from ripping us off one way or another. So it's a game to the state, and like Michael said, they're going to use that money for as long as they can, and then when, you know, courts tell them to give it back, they will have used that money for 2 or 3 years. They'll give it back to us, and they've accomplished part of their goal, I guess, and they'll come up with another scheme to steal from the cities. So it's unfortunate, and there's a great sense of frustration on everybody's city and the counties as well. So, anything else, Michael?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thanks. Staff, Stephanie, Chief, Lou. Lack thereof.
Just happy to announce that we received the last payment on our grant for the plaza. We received a total of $2.2 million to build it.
Great.
We don't have
Congratulations.
no loans, nothing. It's
And,
good.
Lou, and have we been paid in full from the city of Modesto on the brochures yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm still expecting one final payment. We're trying to get it in this month.
Okay. Okay.
And we were on budget with that project pretty much, right?
Yes. Matter of fact, I think we came in under,
Under
budget.
budget.
didn't we? And then we added the bathrooms
Yeah.
onto it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Lou. Gardner, anything? Wow. Okay. Councilman Hutchins.
Just a couple of quick things to add to this for the newspaper. Our new AG, Camilla Harris, in her brief back to the Supreme Court, said that the state was sovereign and that the cities have no power and shouldn't have any say-so in anything that goes on. That's in the brief, if you want to read the brief, which is, you know, it's many, many pages. But also, I laughed too. No, you wouldn't want to hear what I said. But Garner, I got a question for you. I've had several people come up and ask me, and I don't know, and they asked me to bring it up tonight. Patchett, over by Hunt School, is really in disrepair, and they asked if anything was in the planning works for any of that area over there. It'd be just.
We have an estimate. It's about $8,000 in repairs to do that curb and gutter and take the trees out.
Well, this is in the middle. This is the street itself.
We don't have any plans for any projects.
Okay, I've just had several people, because I run a lot and ride my bike over there, and it's pretty rough, and so they've asked me if there was anything. I said,
That's a local collection street. We'll take a look at it and evaluate it, see what kind of repairs are needed. I'll get back to you.
okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Roberta?
I don't have anything tonight.
Nick?
Nothing tonight.
Bob?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, I just have just a couple items. I entered us into the parade again this year for the Newman Fall Festival on September 4th on Sunday. So if everybody can make yourselves available, that'd be great. Ride on the fire truck and wave at everybody and participate in the parade would be fun, as we do every year. And the second thing, I received a letter from Jerry Davis, who's the manager of the Turlock Mosquito Abatement Board of Trustees. And Kern Honeywell is our current appointed trustee His term expires January 2012. I've had some conversation with Kern, and he's willing to continue to serve on this board if this council so desires to allow him to do that on our behalf. Kern's a hard worker. He's been on the board for many years, and he does everything he can for the city of Newman on that board. So if there's concurrence, I will notify Mr. Davis that we would like to have Kern stay on that board for another 4 years.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Ratify it at the next agenda too.
Okay, all right. And so we'll notify him, and then it'll be ratified on the next council agenda. All right, and let's see. And I think that's all I have this evening. So with that, we're adjourned.